Okay, so now that we have seen some of the functions and keywords in the Jasmine BDT framework, and we also looked at a demo, a Protractor project, right? So we saw how to write some scripts in Protractor using the demo or the AngularJS website, right? Now, let's pick up a fresh website or a fresh application, right? And there we will look at the different elements present in AngularJS application and how can we write automation scripts in detail, right? So we'll look at all the different possibilities of interacting with an element using Protractor. Okay, so for that, I'm going to use this iStock iStock application, right? The reason being, it's a pure AngularJS application. So if you inspect any of these elements, right, you will find they are using the AngularJS elements like ng model for this register email, right? Similarly, you will find this is an ng app. Okay, so it's purely for demo purpose. So I'm not going to use it for kind of execution purpose. It's just for showing you how to automate this AngularJS application using the Protractor scripts, right? So in this video, I'm going to show you about the text fields, right? So text fields like this is a text field, password, confirm password. So all these are input text fields, right? So we are going to look at all the possibilities which we can use to automate all these input text fields in Protractor. Okay. Okay. So let's head back to our IDE and let's create a new project now. Okay. So let's go ahead and create a new project here. And I will name it iStock automation. Okay, and let's open that folder here. Okay, so it's created now. Now we need two files, as you know already, right? So we need the conf.js and we need the specs. Okay, so now conf.js would be will always remain same across your projects. So you can easily copy that from our previous project. So put it in this iStock automation. Okay, and spec.js we will create. Okay, so let's create a new file here called register register underscore spec.js. Okay, so this is our spec and this is our conf.js. Okay, so I'm going to now change this to register underscore spec.js. So it is going to use this spec to run the script. Okay, now in register spec.js, we need to write our Protractor script. So first is obviously the describe keyword, as we have already looked at it. So it accepts a string. So this is kind of our starting test suite, you can say, right? So what it will be, so what page we are looking at. we are looking at joining as a member, right? So let's put it as join as member, and then it accepts a function. So let's put in a function here. Okay. And now we need to write the it specs, right? So it, and my first spec would be to enter company email, right? So I'd enter company email, and the function would be so here first we need to navigate to that page, right? So browser dot get and our URL, and I would also like to maximize my window, right? After it launches the page. So browser.driver.manage dot window dot maximize. So if you notice, this command is pretty similar to what we write in Selenium, driver.manage.window.maximize, right? So it's inherited from the WebDriver API. Okay, so these two lines are used from the browser. It will go to that page and it will maximize the window. Okay, now the next thing is we need to use our element here. Okay, and we need to use, so let's inspect what kind of element this is, this input text box. Okay, so as you can see here, it is using ng model, register email is the value. So let's copy that value, register email, and we'll be using the ng model attribute, right? So let's use by dot model, and inside that we will write the value. Okay, so and after that we can use send keys to pass on the value here. Okay, so for now I will just put some random value here, test1 at demo.com. Okay, so this is the value. Now, as I said, I'll be showing you all the possible functions which we can use here for this input text box. So you can also use something like to clear the text box, you can use a function called clear, right? So let's take this and we can use here the clear method, right? So to clear the text box before we enter anything. So that's one possibility for input text box you can use. And then after entering, you can also use kind of a verification, you can say, right? So let's see. So before that, let's optimize our code a little bit, right? As you can see, we are now repeating this step or this text, right? So we are always kind of finding this element. Now what we can do instead of this is we can create a variable here, right? So where, and we will call it txt email, right? And we can put this element here in this variable. Okay, so we don't need to type it again and again. We'll just use that variable whenever we want. Okay, so instead of this, now we will use txt email. So that's quite optimized code for you, right? Txt email. And our next bit is, so we are going to verify it, right? So we'll use expect, and we will use txt email dot get attribute of value, right? And then here we will use dot to equal. So it's a kind of assertion, right? So to equal, we are just getting the value of attribute of this value in that field, and we are comparing it with our value which we have entered, right? So this is another possibility for a text field, what you can do, and that's it, right? Now, this is our first spec, right? So if you see here, if I write another spec like this, right? So we have three input text fields here: company email, password, and confirm password. So we need to write three specs. And as you can guess, this step will become a common step, right? For all the three specs. So it's obvious we don't want to repeat this step again and again. We just want to launch it once, right? So remove this from here. And what we are going to do is we are going to use something called before all. Now, I've already shown you this keyword from the Jasmine BDD framework, right? So in before all, um, we are going to use a function, right? And we can execute this function. Here we will write those two steps. So what it's going to do, it's going to execute this just once before all the specs are executed, right? Now, similarly, you can write this step three more or two more times, right? So I can just copy it and just change the values here, right? So this will be enter password. Similarly, I will change this value here. Let's put some password here, just 123 and 123, right? And then similarly, I can have another spec for confirm password. So confirm password. So value will be same right here, right? So yeah, and I can also change this now. Text password. And so let's look at what's the element is like. Again, ng model. So we'll use the same. So we'll pass on the attribute value here. Similarly for confirm password, again an ng model, right? So pretty much the same. Okay, so yeah, so let's change this value here. Confirm password, and we will use this here. Okay, so three specs, and we are entering into three different fields here, and also we are doing some assertion, right? So we have also optimized our code, as you can look, right? We are using a before all, which is a kind of setup thing for our test, and then we are using three specs, right? We are storing that different elements in different variables, and then we are using that variable to perform some actions and assertions, right? So let's execute this. So let's save this file first. Okay, so in order to save this file, you can also go to here, file save all, and then you can go to terminal, new terminal, in order to execute this, right? So you know what we are going to use. We are going to use the Protractor command, and then we are going to pass on the counter.js here, right? So it's launching the page here. Okay, it will maximize the page, and then it will try to enter into those fields. Okay, so obviously, let's check the password here. There may be some password requirements. Okay, so make sure password is 8 to 40 characters with a mix of letters and numbers. Okay, so I think we have entered less than 8 characters. So let's enter test at 1, 2, 3. Okay, so that's fine. So let's change the password a little bit. And here as well. And save the file here and run it again. Now, obviously, what we did was also a negative kind of scenario, which you can also write as another spec, right? So you can enter some incorrect email or incorrect password and check for those error messages which are being displayed. So that's obviously another scenario for you. Okay, so we didn't change somewhere, right? So here. So again, as I was speaking, right? So it's a kind of negative scenario for us. So let's execute this again. Okay, all good. All the three specs got executed. So this is how you can interact with input text box and write your scripts in Protractor. So in the next video, I'm going to show you how you can work with some other elements like drop down, checkboxes, buttons, right? So these are some common elements in every web application. So I'm going to show you that how you can write your scripts in Protractor.